Hello everyone, it's me, and it looks like I did it again, and by it, I mean started another old season of Project Runway. I just couldn't help myself. I was sitting there so bored out of my mind. What am I gonna watch? Basketball? Is it even basketball season? Hell no. But would I watch it if it was? Hell no. So I decided why not watch an old season of Project Runway and get my fix. And you know, I've said this before, but whenever I watch Project Runway, it somehow fills my head with all of these ideas that, hey, you too are as talented as these designers that you are seeing on television. When in reality, no, I am not that talented when it comes to making clothes. I don't know the first thing about it. You know, even though I'm not the best at making clothing and things like that, it still does not stop me from trying. I do enjoy giving it a go, even though most of the projects that I make end up on the bottom of my closet floor behind the closed door, and I never revisit them again. Although I do enjoy customizing clothing and, you know, splashing some paint on it, doing a little rip here and there, maybe sewing on an applique, just making things unique, your own. It's totally fun, and people are like, where did you get that? Did you make it? And I say, no, I didn't make this, I bought it off Etsy. As far as sewing goes, I do sew, but I prefer to sew by hand. It's just something that really calms my nerves, and I think hand sewing is a real art form, and it's something that I just enjoy, even though it's very old school when you think about it, because now we have machines that can do anything. You can draw a picture and it will sew the image for you. That's called embroidery, and it's totally awesome, totally cool. It totally blows my mind. You know though, I never really got the hang of using a sewing machine, and truthfully, I think I've only ever used one twice, and the first time was just to test it out. I took a piece of fabric and I just sewed it, and it was not a straight line at all. Another thing, I buy fabric sometimes and then I'm like, oh no, there is no way I can ever cut into that. So you don't, and you just keep this whole folded up thing of fabric, and after a while it gets dusty, so that's dumb on my part. I'm gonna cut it up, baby. And the second time that I ever used a sewing machine kind of involves a story. Back in the day, HGTV used to be a very fascinating television network to me, and they did so much more than how to get a designer room with an unlimited budget, which is what they do now, / Selling Houses Network. Back in the day, it was interior decorating, but on a budget, and things that you could actually achieve, and things that you never would have thought of before, versus how things are now where every single room looks the same. You know, hello, HGTV also did gardening, and they did a lot of crafts, which I totally loved. All the craft shows. I used to watch Carol Duvall, and some of those crafts were absolutely horrible, like how to make a toilet paper cozy doll. Are you really gonna make that? And if you are, something's wrong with your level of taste. HGTV also had Kitty Bartholomew, who I think had the coolest hair at that time, and HGTV had a show called Room by Room with Matt and Shari, and they made some of the most horrible rooms that I have ever seen in my life. I still revisit them in my memory from time to time. And lastly, HGTV also had a television show called Simply Quilts. And yes, I know, it sounds simply boring. However, it was very interesting. They would show you how to make a quilt, they would talk about different techniques and ideas, and then they would do an interview with someone that loved to make quilts. And I guess I was watching it one day and I thought, you know what? I'm gonna make a quilt. But at this time I had very little taste, and that little amount of taste that I had was absolutely bad. So I said, I'm not going to make any ordinary quilt. I am going to make a quilt with cut-up denim jeans. I got all of my squares cut out, and I go to sew them, and I do it really nicely, and I press and I keep sewing. And you know, denim is a very heavy material, so what eventually happens? The needle breaks, and I'm like, how the hell do I change this needle? And you know, this was back in the day where I couldn't just get on YouTube and search. I had no idea, so I finally figured it out weeks and weeks later. But at this point, I'm like, how do I thread this machine? And I never figured out how to thread the machine, so I never finished my quilt, and I ended up throwing it away into the trash can where that thing belonged. So it's been years and years later, and I still do not have the slightest clue how to thread a machine. I mean, do they have to make it that incredibly difficult? Or maybe it's not that difficult after all. Maybe I'm just a little slow in the old head. So this has just been a video where I'm talking about sewing and Project Runway and the great days of HGTV with Room by Room, Matt and Shari, Kitty Bartholomew, Simply Quilts, Carol Duvall. I will always love you, baby, and you can always make me a toilet paper doll cozy, and I will display it on the back of my toilet tank. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you again soon.